Okay. Good evening. The Standing Committee for the Public Safety Committee is called to order at 6:42 p.m. Today is April the 7th, 2025. And we will start with call to order and the roll call. Alderwoman Karma O'Neill.
Present.
Alderman Gay has been detained slightly. At this time, we will have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve agenda. Moving
Yes, with an amendment.
PSC 3:325 to the end of our.
All right, second, all in favor? With an amendment?
Second. Oh,
All,
yes.
all in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Next order of business is business and miscellaneous approval of the minutes. We just moved that and we will move that down. We're on to general discussion. ID 3425, Annapolis Police Department update. And we have a plethora of command staff here today, and we're certainly glad to see you. One thing I want to mention before we get started, I want to make a slight clarification. And I think there's been a slight confusion maybe in the public. What we are doing every month is highlighting every ward. And we try to make it interesting and we try to change up. A couple of years ago, we did Spotlight and Did You Know? So it's not necessarily an opportunity to give the whole entire picture of what's going on in public safety. It's to give some snippets and some information, but I'm trying to see where we can change up a bit. And this is one of the things I, as the chair, decided to do this time is to focus on a ward a month. And I kind of look at it as akin to everybody has their own way of learning. You're either a visual learner, which means you do it by sight, or you're an auditory learner, which means you do it with your hearing. And some people are kinesthetic learners and they do it with their hands. So just trying to give different opportunities to share information. So we're trying this year, but it hopefully will generate conversation and other questions, but it is not here to answer every question. So just want to kind of put it out there to the public, but I'm so glad that people are watching, obviously, to make comments and critiques. So we certainly do appreciate that. So moving right along, Annapolis Police Department and the introductions, please, Chief. Thank you so much for being here. No.
Okay, there you go.
Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'll start off with introducing two members of the command staff. We're very excited to have them, and if they want to chime in and say a little bit about themselves, then feel free. But I'll start off to my right since he came first, and that's Guy Thacker. He is now the Chief of Patrol. We're very blessed to have him. He comes with a whole wealth of experience. He's a graduate of Towson University and went on to earn his master's degree from Johns Hopkins University. He has a lot of patrol experience. He's also in Baltimore. He was the commander of the SWAT team, QRT, SWAT. I don't know, they use them interchangeably. But quick response, that's QRT or SWAT team, same as our asset. Well, he was in charge of that for many years. He's a 32-year veteran that's worked all over the department and retired as a lieutenant colonel from the Baltimore Police Department on the beginning of January of this year. Also, we have Lakeisha Blue, and I had the opportunity to serve with her dad and her mom years ago. She's a legacy in the Baltimore Police Department. She's going to assume some of the duties that Rhonda McCoy had, primarily professional standards and the Police Accountability Act of 2021. She's going to assume all of those duties, working with the Police Accountability Board and the Administrative Charging Committee when cases go before either body or issues go before either body. She'll take the lead, and she'll also investigate all of our internal affairs. She'll oversee that process, I should say. And she's a retired captain in internal affairs in the Baltimore police with many years, 28 years, 27 years. I was close. It would have been 28 years this June. And she's been to various schools, and so we're very happy to have her here. And I know that they're going to do a great job. And of course, to my immediate right is my right-hand man, and that's my deputy chief, Stan Branford, that everybody knows, Major Branford. To Captain Thacker's right, immediate right, of course, everybody knows her. She's the senior person up here. That's Amy Miguez. To my left, immediate left, is my operations commander, and that's Lamar Howard. And of course, you just got introduced to Lakeisha. Did I miss anybody? Okay, I think I have everybody. Yeah, so if I can get right into it, is that okay?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chief.
Yes, ma'am. There's a number of things that has happened, and I'm really going to ask my people to be participatory because I'll try to get through a lot quick. But one of the things that I'm happy to report, something that's been of concern to many people in Annapolis, we've been reinstated with the Commission on the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies, commonly known or referred to as CALEA. We were reinstated on March the 20th of this year with no conditions. That means everything has been satisfied. So we expect to get our credentials probably mailed to us real soon. I can't make it down there to receive them this year, but they'll send them to us. So I'll be happy to come down and display our certificate. I want to give a thanks to Hill O'Hurley, acting captain Hill O'Hurley, for overseeing the process. I also want to thank Kayla Ziegler, who we hired as a community advocate. She worked diligently along with Melanie Williamson, Officer First Class Melanie Williamson, and last but certainly not least, Sergeant Tanya Hernandez. Now, Melanie Williamson and, let me thank one other person. We presented a certificate of appreciation to Mary Kate on Friday, and I'd like to thank Director Kevin Simmons for allowing her to help us with the CALEA process. Especially, she was invaluable when it came to talking about the functions of OEM and how it relates to law enforcement and the Emergency Operations Center, and how when we have natural disasters or even a man-made disaster, she was very helpful in proving that we are prepared to address any type of catastrophic event. So thank you as well, Director Simmons, for allowing Mary Kate to be a part of that. And we presented her with a certificate of appreciation. Also, we gave Hill O'Hurley, acting captain Hill O'Hurley, Melanie Williamson, and Kayla Ziegler the Distinguished Service Award, a commendation from the department. I gave it to them for their work in getting us back. And now our policies are reading better than ever. I've been working with them personally on the language of our policies. After Carrie reads them for legal sufficiency, so I should thank Carrie too. She's been a big part of the CALEA process, so we have to find a way. Still people I have to thank, so thank you, Carrie, for making sure that our policies are legally sufficient. And that's what it takes for all of us to get into compliance. We're doing it correctly now. The old way we did it, one person tried to do everything. Now we send it through a number of people, and we have actually a CALEA unit now. So I don't think we'll revisit that problem anymore. So that's the first thing that I've been happy and really excited to get down here to report that we are back into compliance. The second thing is very unfortunate, but I'm glad to report that we made an arrest of Mr. Roscoe Jerome Jones, who was responsible for the homicide and shooting on Clay Street. He was apprehended this morning at around 7 o'clock by the U.S. Marshal. They were the lead, along with the District of Columbia Metropolitan Police. He was arrested in the front of an apartment complex without incident. As we know, he's a very dangerous individual and implicated in not only this homicide here, but in several other incidents in other jurisdictions nearby, our neighbors in PG County and Washington, D.C. So I'm happy to inform the committee and Annapolitans that that's one less dangerous person that has been taken off the street. I also want to thank the men and women of the Annapolis Police Department, both detectives and uniformed officers. I told the press today that I would rate my detectives and my commander against anybody, anywhere. That's how diligently they work, not only on this case, but all cases. And our thoughts and prayers still goes out to the Sims family and the young man who was shot. I don't want to mention his name because he's a juvenile, but we're still praying for his healing and recovery. So those are the two highlights that I'm happy to report today. I'll get Captain Howard to give an overview of the crime stats and then anything that he could say to update you on some of these crimes, especially these discharges. Without compromising the case, I'll have him do so. But one last thing, I did an interview right before I came down here, and I think it was Mr. Keith Daniels from Fox 45 said, well, Chief, what are you going to do now that he's in custody? I said, we're going to look at the ones that are not solved and start working on those immediately and hopefully come back with the same result as we did today with the suspect, Mr. Jones. So having said that, if you'll go over the crime.
Chief, before you go any further, I'd like to say something as well. You have a stellar command staff here as well as rank and file, but you can have the best group of people around you, but if you don't have great leadership, it really is for naught. And I want to thank you for being a wonderful leader for this group of people. When we think about public safety, it's a huge part of our daily lives. And as you always say, people won't live here, come here, work here unless they feel safe. And we want to thank you as well for pulling this all together and for making us feel a lot safer. And each and every day, we pray for your safety and everyone's safety out there. Whenever I see an officer, no matter where it is, I say, be safe. And so I think that's extremely important. And also the partnerships, the U.S. Marshals, just one example of how we utilize. We can't do it alone. We can't do it all by ourselves. We have to depend on those others out there that are doing the same work that we're doing and have the confidence in their abilities as well and their staff members as well. So thank you for pulling it all together and making sure that Annapolis is a safe place to be. And we will continue to try to move forward to make it an even safer place. But we congratulate you as well for the hard and excellent work that you've done to keep it all moving and going. It's not an easy job.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not an easy profession. Mm-hmm. And you've been doing it a long time, as well as those in your command staff, as well as rank and file. But thank you so very much. Sometimes thank yous go unnoticed, but I wanted to take this opportunity today to say that directly to you.
Thank you, ma'am. You're quite welcome. And I'll just take the opportunity to do the same thing. I'd like to thank you for your unwavering support of the Annapolis PD. Nobody in this town could ever question your passion for public safety. I know your background from your days in Baltimore as a state's attorney. And we've had a few of our members that remember you when you were at the state's attorney's office in Baltimore. So thank you for your passion. We couldn't ask for a better public safety chair and advocate for the Annapolis Police Department. So thank you as well, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we'll look at this slide for Ward 6. This is just a general overview and a general snapshot of the crime that occurred in 2024 in Ward 6. So for crimes count by ward, Ward 6 was third in the city for crimes. Crimes against people, Ward 6 was first, but there's a common denominator to the crimes against persons report. And once we go to the next slide, I'll elaborate on that. And then crimes against property, Ward 6 was ranked 6. So we'll move on to the next slide. So we see here, Alderman Gay, your ward was tied for last with wards 2, 4, 5, and 8 with 0 homicides for 2024. Rapes, you were first, but the theme to the rapes and some of the other Part 1 crimes, the majority of those incidents were domestic. So they happened inside partner-on-partner violence. When you look at the aggravated assaults, you had 45, 27 of those aggravated assaults were domestic. Again, partner-on-partner violence. The robberies, you were tied for first with robberies in Ward 8. So you had a third of the robberies were also domestic. For burglaries, you were first out of the 8 wards. Again, a common theme. 5 of those burglaries were domestic related. 8 residential no force, and 8 residential force. So what we found, specifically with the burglaries, especially in the Harbor House community, we had individuals that were occupying vacant apartments. So you got to classify it as a burglary because they forced their way into the apartment to live. So a large number of your burglaries, again, were domestic related and individuals forcing entry into vacant apartments. For thefts, you were 7 out of the 8 wards. Again, when it comes to the thefts, your ward no different than the other wards. Porch pirates, people leaving merchandise and valuables inside of their cars, and the like. When it comes to the motor vehicle theft, you were tied for 6 with Ward 4. 3 suspects known to the victim, 2 unlocked recovered, 5 locked recovered, 1 locked not recovered, 1 unlocked not recovered. So basically the same thing as the other wards when it comes to the thefts and the motor vehicle thefts. People not securing their cars or leaving a spare key inside of the car, and then when they come outside, the car's gone. So that's basically that in a nutshell as it relates to Ward 6. And we'll go to our last slide. So in all of 2024, you had 1 contact shooting at Madison and President Street. For shots fired, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This year, prior to our last couple of incidents, you had 1 contact shooting in 2025, Tyler Avenue, and we believe that to be self-inflicted with a juvenile. And then you had the shots fired at Park and Tyler Avenue, which the last incident, we recovered the vehicle that was involved in that incident, and we should be charging that incident relatively soon. Last night, so we're still working on last night. We're finding that the incidents last night are connected to some incidents that we had earlier this year. It's not stemming from neighborhood violence between communities here in Annapolis per se. These incidents are stemmed from an incident that occurred in Anne Arundel County. Social media beef that's took a turn for the worse. So we're quickly putting the pieces together. We'll be doing some things to get us closer to where we need to be to identify the persons that are responsible for the number of incidents. So far, we're looking at potentially 7 incidents that will be connected to this crew that we're currently looking at as persons of interest involved in the recent dischargings here in the city of Annapolis.
Alderman Gay, you have any additional questions or comments?
No, I think this is relatively good. Obviously, considering 2019, 2020, 2020, we had terrible. I think one of those city's highest rate size. So that might have been 17, but maybe 19 was the second. So, the only thing I'm always worried about is we do have excessive shots fired at random, and I don't know how that's tracked because we don't use shot spotter technique like that, do we?
No.
So,
No, we tried it, but
so yeah, that's just generally my only concern is we do have a lot of just random shootings, and then obviously people get paranoid at that. Cars are hit, houses are hit. But I think just in 24 and 25 responses from APD, in my opinion, in my ward, have been fantastic. I'm pleased.
Yes, sir.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Question, and correct me if I'm wrong, seems like the past couple, maybe 2 or 3 years, seems like that we've had a spike the first 3 months of the year. Am I correct or not?
Yeah. After the holidays, well, you can go ahead and answer.
And generally speaking, Madam Chair, once the weather turns, it's warmer. You got more people standing outside. What we're experiencing here in Annapolis is no different than any other jurisdiction in the state.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of individuals, they take that time to come down to Annapolis and to other jurisdictions to exercise their demons, so to speak, when you have more people out. But again, with the chief's stance, we're very serious about removing folks who mean this community harm. And we're going to use every strategy, every resource that we have, utilizing our federal partners to give people somewhere to go for a very long time. Once we're able to figure out exactly what's what, and I'll just say it now. Those folks that are involved with this gunplay, just pack a toothbrush because we're coming. We're coming.
Question, what's the police department's policy or procedure, if there is one, I guess there is, with officers getting out of their cars on a frequent basis, infrequent basis, a certain percentage of the time? Question that was posed to me the other day.
Yeah, we were actually working on that, and I shared with my command staff literally late last week. I think it was Thursday or Friday. I said that as a part of our crime plan, I want to show foot patrol. We can mandate officers again. It's part of their duty. It's part of police science. And I'm careful how I choose my words. This is research that was done 50-something years ago, the Kansas City Project. And they basically said that police presence, and a lot of people try to misquote that study, police presence, when they saturate an area, doesn't necessarily equate to lower crime. But I'm of the mindset that when police get out on foot and walk the neighborhoods, it has so many benefits, but it gives the impression to citizens that they're not occupying the territory. See, we got to be very careful post George Floyd, because the public's demanding, and Annapolis is no different. They want crime to be suppressed, but they want to do it in a very constitutional way. So what we try to do, just to backtrack, and I'll tie it into these remarks, we do see an uptick the last 3 years since I've been here, post-holiday, post-Christmas violence. You can always depend on mid-January to have these kind of discharges, and then it stops, and then it picks back up again in the spring when the weather gets consistently warm. Why that phenomenon occurs, I really don't have an answer, but you're right, we've had a few shootings. But now what we have to do is we have to find a way strategically. I said it to our new chief of patrol that we have to get the officers more involved in foot patrols for a small portion of their tour duty. Give me 15, 20 minutes a day to actually walk. It's good exercise, number one. Number two, it gives the appearance that we do care enough to be seen and not to get into the car. So to answer your question, it's a part of our deployment. We can definitely hold officers accountable to walk foot. You know, there's nothing in Local 400 that I'm aware of that says that they can't walk foot. They can walk foot, and they should walk foot and be visible for a period of time. It's a trend now. Everybody across the country is demanding it. Most chiefs will tell you all across this country that people want officers to get out of the cars now and get back to the old maintenance. It's called the maintenance order model, whereby you show the community that you care, and you put officers out there so that the community can approach them and get to know them. And that helps when we need information. It helps to establish relationships. We can mentor a young kid. It's good for recruitment. I can go on and on and on, the benefits. And so we're working on that now.
Great, because I'm hearing out there that people do want you out and about and talking to them and really engaging a little bit more. So that's what I'm hearing.
Yes,
So-
ma'am. And we just had this conversation. It bothers me, and I have nothing to say in response to it other than that we should be doing that. And I think my officers are doing it. I really do. So if my officers are listening to this broadcast, this is not an indictment against them. I'm not accusing them of not doing it, but we have to capture that a little better. That's what I said to my command staff, that if we're walking foot, we have to capture it, and we have to show the community that we're doing it, and do it strategically. I like foot. One of my favorite spots that I think we should be walking foot is up at Bywater Mutual Homes. I think that because it's one of those communities where it's basically one way in and one way out, you got the court that sits in the back, you have the Boys and Girls Club there. And so it's set up for that model to be very prosperous. I like it on Clay Street. You know, a lot went on Clay Street because we would ride through there, and you miss things when you ride through. You know, officers, me and my deputy chief laugh all the time because we remember the days, and you were in Baltimore, Madam Chair, when the days when officers would routinely say in court, they watched a hand-to-hand by. That's hard to capture. You almost have to have a camera, a Canon-like lens to capture that. You know, what the officers are saying is that they know the players involved. They know who deals drugs, and they know the mannerisms that go along with it. But to actually say they saw somebody, you know, a gelatin or a glassine bag, that's hard to capture. I don't care how good you are. What they do, and they have this routine write-up. Well, I want to get away from all that nonsense. How you know who's the drug dealers and who's likely to carry drugs is through the power of observation, knowing what the characteristics of a person who carries a handgun or who's dealing fentanyl to our children. But you got to get out the car to do it. And so we're going to really make that, I'm going to hammer that point home as the chief of police, that I really expect more foot patrol. I think the officers are doing it. I think most men and women don't mind doing it. They just want a reason, and we need to give them some background. And I'm confident that I'm putting them on the spot that Captain Thacker can make that point.
And I think that hearing it from you means a lot, whether it's within your ranks or even out in the community. If they know that the chief says so, then it's so.
It's a value, yes, ma'am. And I think they're doing it. I think they're doing it more than we're capturing. And so we'll just regroup and make sure that we capture it. And I want the officers to know that I appreciate the good job that they do. I know I walk foot. I'm a former foot officer. I walked foot for almost 10 years, and I loved it. I hated it at first, and then I asked to go back because you couldn't beat the exercise, some of the best shape that I've been in my life. And I got to know a lot of people, and it didn't hurt me in my career at all. And so I think that if we do it the correct way and do it strategically, we're going to have some officers who are going to request to walk foot as an assignment, and we can revisit that too.
And I think now that the weather's getting warmer, people want to sit outside, and they want to feel safe sitting outside. And they're going to see the officers more now than they were when it's bad weather or cold weather. So now they feel comfortable sitting out and having the officer drive by and get out and just say, how you doing, or wave or whatever. I
Yes,
think that
ma'am.
it's a perfect time right now to reemphasize that.
Yes, ma'am. And I was told Stan, most of the year they get to do it, and it's not harsh. I mean, the most of the year is not winter. You know what I mean? We got that small window when we have a winter, And our winters haven't been as severe as I've seen them in my lifetime. But after a couple of weeks, by the end of this month, we'll have weather consistently above 50 degrees, probably in the 60s. And that's not bad weather for the winter. And that'll go all the way to October, almost to November, all the way through baseball season. And so they'll have most of the year to be able to get out there comfortably and do it.
All right, thank you. Ward 6, you have a question?
No, so there's a question. Are you all geo-tracked? How do you know if an officer is walking if you don't see them?
Well, we do it a couple of ways. I think the primary way we do it is that we look at body-worn camera footage. Some of it's randomized, and we capture it. Officers on foot that way, and we ask our supervisor to document it. Did I miss anything?
They call out radio when they go out.
Oh, they call out radio too. Yeah, they have to call out radio when they're going on foot. That's just a safety measure too, so we'll know what they're doing in case they do encounter a threat while they're out on foot. The units will know that they're out on foot and what area that they're in. Thank you.
And they have the bikes. I see I generally see the same guys on the bike. I think do you have to sign up to do the bike? Okay, yeah, and I see the same crew. And
we want to put the segways out. We have some nice segways that we
okay.
put out.
I would not put those out. Keep those downtown. Don't bring those to Ward 6.
What we did not have in your slides is we prioritize the number of calls that officers respond to. And one of the things that at the top of the list is their self-initiated foot patrol. Whenever they go on foot patrol, they always call dispatch and let dispatch know that they're on foot patrol. That's for a couple of reasons. The main reason is so someone know where they are. It's a safety reason for one, and to get out and connect with the community. But if we did an overall for the city, you would see those calls for service. We just don't have it for Ward 6 or broken down at this time, but they do self-initiate that. But what the chief spoke to last week was doing a better job capturing that, and he's going to require that not only do they call out, but also activate their body-worn camera.
And I want the officers to know, the ones that are listening, we trust you and we know that you're doing it. We just want to be able to tell the story and justify it to our citizens. We are accountable to show that we're walking foot, and I think people are more secure when you can demonstrate that you're doing. It's one thing to tell them or mandate, it's another thing to demonstrate. So thank you. When we had our meeting about foot last week, I said, let's use the body-worn cameras to capture that.
And actually, I'm sorry, one other thing that I incorrectly stated as well is, and I think we also are tracking it on the city's page, the new maps, Bay Ridge Gardens is no longer in Ward 6. And so those statistics, should not be tracked in Ward 6. They're not listed here. I just mentioned it at the beginning. The shooting that happened last night is actually now in Ward 7. And so I just wanted to clarify that. My apologies.
Okay.
Thank you. Alderman O'Neill.
I was just going to say before you started talking about it that thank you. After our listening session 2 weeks ago when the public was sort of demanding that, I've been on Clay Street and in that area 4 or 5 times since then, and every single time I've seen foot traffic. Telling Captain McGuess earlier, I appreciate it, and the residents are noticing. I had 2 residents when I was there last night come up to me and say, we did see the officers out walking around and we appreciate that. And they want that.
Good.
They want to know you. They want you to know them, the residents, and we just need to keep it up. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. And we're going to make that a part. There's some things once we're ready to promote the crime plan. I said I want to see it on my desk because I want to add some community things to it. And really, every day is a crime plan, and we really should have 8 of them, to be honest with you, because not all wards experience the same problems. A crime plan should capture and be tailored to the issues, and that requires us to pay close attention to the data You know, when I was in Baltimore, the commissioner would say we have a crime plan, and they did. But a lot of times my frustration was we had one crime plan for 500,000 people, and all areas didn't experience the same type of issues. And so you have to tailor it. We're going to have one plan to deal with the continued proliferation of handguns, the juveniles who use them, and trigger pullers, and the adults. But we're also I'm going to task my commanders to understand what are the problems. And what we can't do, and I say this all the time, what we can't do is tell the community what they want. The community has to tell us. Quality is what the customer says it is, not what we say it is. Some people, I like pens, expensive pens. Some people say, I don't even want a pen to write with. I can buy a 10-cent pen as long as I can sign the back of my paycheck. I don't need a bougie pen that people are going to talk about, right? It's like a car. Some people say 4 wheels in the transmission. I'll get to point A to point B. I don't have to have a Cadillac or a Mercedes. So quality is what the customer says it is. When people in the community, if they don't feel safe, they don't feel safe. And we shouldn't tell them that they feel safe if they don't. What can we do to help you feel safe? And then have a dialogue. So we got to get back to that. And I think that as phenomenal of a job that we're doing, I think it would only enhance it, you know, maybe tenfold if we actually did that more often and ask the community what do they want.
And the crime plan is going to be ever evolving.
That's correct.
It's not stagnant. It's not stationary. It's going to be different depending on what's hot and what's not, I guess.
That's correct.
It is the best way of putting it. And so it will be an opportunity for people to see and to weigh in and determine what they see, like you say, what they see is safe. And so I don't know when the crime plan will be unveiled.
It's coming soon. And I should say on this, I told my staff, or I told Stan, I said, Deputy, if the crime plan is for the summer, we're not going to tell people, I'm not going to go on TV and say, wait till July. July's coming. While it's the bombardment of Fort McHenry, rockets are everywhere on Clay Street. And then we got to wait because the plan is a summer plan and it's still March. No, we're going to adjust the plan. If we have to implement that plan early, we implement it early. If it addresses the needs now, then the summer plan becomes the spring plan. And the whole name of the game is to stabilize any threats. And so we're constantly doing the SWOT analysis and the strengths, the weaknesses in our plan, the opportunities and threats. And so we're constantly reevaluating. That's how we're going to start doing them. So when we say a crime plan is coming, that may be subject to change at the last minute, because if we get some trigger pullers in here who are engaging in retaliatory violence that we didn't anticipate it when the draft of the plan was made, then my command staff has to go back and say, well, what are we going to do to mitigate or eradicate this violence that we're seeing? So I promise you, Madam Chair, on my honor, it's coming out soon.
I'd like to see, and we talked about this earlier, months ago, kind of a more aggressive PR campaign when it comes to the soft stuff. And even, I'm not, that category is not for domestic violence. That is not one of the soft things, but thefts from autos, shopliftings, and that sort. Just a continuous barrage of messages going out to people, reminding them to lock their car doors, take your valuables out. I mean, we can do it over. We need to do it over and over and over and over again, because we all tend to do something when it's hot, and then when it kind of, stops, then we stop doing it. But there needs to be, I believe, now I've never worn a badge, never carried a gun, but in order to kind of keep reminding people, especially when we start seeing spikes, that we need to get the word out more aggressively on those soft type of crimes that can be, for lack of a better, irritating. But also, as far as the domestic violence, we don't have to get into that discussion today. I don't know what kind of mitigation we can do for that. I don't know what we can come up with a plan for that, because Alderman Gay's ward seems to be the biggest ward that comes to those kinds of violence. And as we all know, oftentimes that can lead to deadly results. And we don't want that to happen. And so we want to stop that before it even gets started or continues.
Yes, ma'am. And
That was actually, sorry to cut you off. That
No,
was
sir.
actually supposed to happen a year and a half ago. And that's one of the things. Obviously, Rhonda had issues, and I hope God is protecting and, covering her family after what they went through. But the domestic violence thing, really, we need to get a cap on it.
mhm.
Because obviously it is something that happens every single day. It's behind the door. And then we were supposed to host this event actually. This past December, I think it was December the 10th. But then the public media team came to us and they said, you probably shouldn't host a in-person domestic violence event because victims are not going to want to come to this event and, talk about traumas or anything like that. So we stopped. We still have the money sitting there. We need to figure out what to do with it or get some sort of plan, even a pamphlet, something. If you're getting, involved in domestic violence, say something. And one of the things that's even more concerning is that it's starting younger now. You have like 17-year-olds beating up their girlfriend. It's insane. And so that does need to happen. And then to your original point, which was my second part, is communications. They've gotten so much better. My thing, I think the one thing that I'm slightly still frustrated with on the communication side, and particularly with my ward, Deputy Bradford does a very, very good job of communicating with us. We know
Absolutely.
things 24/7, all hours in the night, right away. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm not, to respond to it. And I want that. Does the communications team, do they work 24/7? So if there's an incident that happens overnight, who would be, or is there a process in place based off of the team that's working that night to say, all right, so and so's out, who else is going to do the alert or the Facebook post or whatever, just to say, hey, a shooting just happened, be alert, all of those things. Because I honestly think that's the biggest complaint I get from the public is just that they don't feel informed. Other than that, I think it's good. You all, like, even the shooting that just took place in the Alderwoman's ward, that was 2 weeks ago, you already arrested the person. Similar things happen in my ward. So I think the police work is good, just not communicated, like you said.
Well, we're going to start a couple of things. The new PIO, we're going to do a podcast, and I'm going to be involved in that. And we're going to talk about things. We're going to solicit topics from the community. And then whatever those topics are, as long as they're law enforcement related, we'll address them. We'll do our very best. And I'm going to come to everybody. I may come to, Kerry Berger to say, what does this case law means, The seminal ones I know, everybody knows Terry versus Ohio or some of the more seminal cases, Miranda versus Arizona, all that stuff. But then we have a lot of case law I noticed that's very complex to deal with, cyber stuff and all kinds of complicated stuff. And what you said, Alderman Gay, is true. We're getting offenders younger and younger. We even have juveniles who are involved in intimate partner violence. And that's a whole set of regulations that we have to be guided by with the judiciary as it relates to how we can handle juvenile offenders or delinquent acts that would ordinarily be a crime if they were adults. And it's a whole different dynamic. Law enforcement has changed so much in the last 5 years that what we say to the public, I'm careful because I always tell my command staff, I don't want to come off like we're giving excuses, but we do have to do things different. I know my deputy chief came to me a couple years ago and said, you know what we need to do, chief? We need to be more deliberate in our enforcement. Instead of jumping out of cars 5 at a time, like was done in the old days, and it was done in Annapolis like that, and occupy the community, let's do an intelligence-based deployment. Let's follow the numbers. Let's follow the intelligence and the information, and then get warrants and do it that way. And then that way, when we have to jump out the car, we're doing it not because we're profiling anybody or we're stereotyping anybody. We're doing it with a warning in our hand from a judicial officer saying that we ought to take this person in. And so that helps us, and you just have to find a way to, we're still working and evolving with that approach.
Who's in charge of the tech department for APD? You have an internal technological team?
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name. Habib. Yeah, Habib. I can't pronounce his last name.
In the police plans, how far do they go with experimental technology as it relates to crime prevention? I know one of the things the alderman has been a huge advocate for is the drones. And that's like prehistoric technology at this point, because drones came out so far ago. Now there's all this other stuff. I'd like to see the drone thing come to fruition. I know there was some law stuff going on there. I see them using them often, even in the city now. Artificial intelligence, you just mentioned. I know 6 years ago, the council was very, very opposed to the program from University of Maryland.
Yeah, predictive policing.
That was predictive policing with a racial bias. And I'm wondering if now, and that was, I'm not saying that they openly admitted that on the panel when they were here. And so I'm wondering now where the technology stands that would help us. Again, because like you were saying in the messages and stuff this morning, it's like a lot of the times it's like, how are we supposed to, like, how were you going to know that 7 a.m. 2 weeks ago, somebody was just going to be pissed off and start firing at a children's bus stop? So I'm wondering if there is a way that we can get ahead of stuff like that, utilizing technology in the department, because obviously we'll never have the manpower, but there are other ways to circumvent that. And so I don't know. I'm just thinking of the crime plan that you got coming and the tech communications plan and all of this stuff. I just, maybe technology could play a role in it.
Well, I'm from the Dr. Edwin Sutherland School of Criminology. I've been all my adult life, have been a fan of the writings of Dr. Edwin Sullivan. And he says two things: that police can never mitigate crime if the social issues that perpetuate crime doesn't change. And so a lot of times, even with predictive policing, we look at underserved communities and all the ingredients, if you will, for lack of a better term, that would cause social unrest are there. Hopeless poverty, drug addiction, broken families. And of course, we know the history of America. Many people of color have been left out of the mainstream and all that goes along with that. You can't treat people the way many African Americans have historically been treated in cities, and schools are not relevant, education's not relevant, hopeless poverty, abject poverty, all those sociological issues that are all crammed into one area. Why would you have peace? And so predictive policing is going to predict where there's poverty, there's going to be antisocial behavior, because poverty is the force multiplier for a lot of other undesirable behaviors. And I know I'm getting academic now, and this is not a criticism of anybody other than the fact that, as I always say, we're all in this, and elected officials along with law enforcement, has to work together and come up with ways to intervene. We do the very best we can with the reentry program and trying to get these people jobs, payable jobs, because Dr. Sutherland taught me that. I never met him, of course, but he taught me that when I was in graduate school, that why would you? He makes the very basic approach when you have neighborhoods, whether you're talking about Baltimore or you're talking about pockets here in Annapolis or anywhere else, when you have everything going against the neighborhood, the community, everything. Broken families, children don't know their parents are young and still children raising children, and all those things. People are not going to be peaceful because the legislature says that those behaviors are against the law. When people are hopeless, they're going to do hopeless things. And then that makes our job tougher, because when we are charged with the responsibility for mitigating that, And when you mitigate something, you don't eradicate it. You just lessen the probability that's going to happen. That's at the core of community policing, is to problem solve. And we got to find a way to engage in meaningful dialogue and meaningful collaboration to approach those. And like I always say jokingly, yeah, I would like to send everybody to Yale and graduate them Phi Beta Kappa. But we know that's not going to happen. But we got to give people more hope than they have, and teach them that picking up a gun doesn't solve anything. All it does is make it worse. So we're going to, when we talk about the campaign, that's the community part I'm talking about. I want to go back out to the community. The community loved my speaking engagements. If I can't make it out, then we have the podcast that we're going to do. And I'll be vocal, and I'll invite my command staff to take part in those podcasts too. It's our way of communicating to the citizens, to give them some hope and work with them in any kind of way we want. And it seems like Reverend Wainwright is very, very anxious to roll his sleeve up at First Baptist and to work with us to come up with some. And it's just my prayer that will spread in other houses of worship, because it goes back to my original statement, and Sutherland taught me that where there's a lack of faith, family, and education, you're going to have your punitive social agencies like police, courts, and corrections. We got to find a way to put family, faith, and education at the forefront of these communities. And so when we come in, that's the mitigation part, that'll be more rare than common for us to have to come in and manage those things.
Thank you, Chief. One thing I want to say about the listening session, it was one of those sessions where it was all the police fault. It was more, what overarching theme I heard was, what can we as a community do? What can we as nonprofits do? What can we as family members do to make the situations better? And that's what I found refreshing at the listening session. So thank you for that. The other thing about domestic violence cases, I handle lower level physical child abuse, but companion domestic violence cases in Baltimore. And you never know at any point what you're walking into. And that's always my fear when it comes to that, whether it's the persons who are involved on the side of being injured, as well as the officers involved in responding to those cases. Those are one of the worst types of cases to respond to get that. And I can kind of feel now that I think Captain Thacker wants to say something. I'm kind of getting these vibes. Captain Thacker, would you like to speak? I'll get Miss Blue the next time.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yeah.
I could probably talk a lot. I've heard a lot of the questions that you've had. When it comes to domestic violence, there are domestic violence plans that you can generate pamphlets. I would generate, as my time as a district commander in the city, a monthly newsletter. And in the back of that monthly newsletter, for 2 straight years, I incorporated a domestic violence plan. And the intent was that if I had a known address where we were going to frequently, I would saturate that immediate block and the surrounding area with my newsletter, with the intent that neighbors who also knew what was going on would be armed with information that they could potentially provide to that victim. So that was an end around that I was trying to provide information to the community to be able to help that individual maybe escape that situation that they were in. It is a complicated subset problem. I think Lamar hit that when we look at crime numbers in general, we kind of carve domestics out. It is a violent crime. There's real victimhood there. And we need to do everything we can to try to empower those individuals to know that there's others out there that want to help them. When you talk about technology and embracing technology, your head would almost spin as fast as technology has improved. The AI platforms that are out there right now that would help law enforcement, I mean, they are in their infancy stage. There are police reporting systems that are out there that are integrating AI into them, which would help expedite officers' field work in time so that would free them up to get back in service to be able to patrol the community and potentially walk foot. So it's a time saver in a way. What we're wrestling with in modern day law enforcement is like the human intent of the investigator or the police officer themselves to be able to generate that information and put that into a legal document, a police report. So there are these ethics that kind of get inserted into the equation there about how far do we go with AI. But as far as drones, in Baltimore, I never thought that we would see a drone program in Baltimore coming out of and I'll just use the abbreviated term that they use, the spy plane fiasco, and how that was implemented. I was a big believer in drones. They serve a purpose. They're public safety concern. Post-Boston Marathon bombing, they were putting tethered drones up to make sure that the race course was safe. It gives you an elevated platform to be able to observe areas. It's very efficient, effective. But unmanned or untethered drones, I would never have thought in Baltimore that we would get to that point, but they are now currently using them. And they have all you had to do was turn on ESPN on a Sunday morning and see that there were drone races in warehouses, and you saw that these things were very inexpensive, easily operable, and they provide the ability to observe certain areas. So whether it's a specialized TAC team using them for tactical operations or traffic reconstruction, the use of those to do traffic reconstruction investigations versus flying a helicopter burning all that gas, there is efficiency measures that are also in place. But the speed to which this technology is unfolding is just so rapid that we need to embrace it and think about the avenues that would help us. Yes, the Annapolis Police Department probably could see a lot of improvement in those realms. I know where I came from, we were having these conversations about AI, and everyone is really. And I think we were having the same conversations about the utilization of drones a few years ago, but now we're like, hey, if Amazon's going to be delivering packages to me in my front porch, maybe having drones integrated into public safety isn't such a bad thing after all. Anyways, thank you for your time.
Okay. I was reading your body language. I could tell you wanted to say something.
I would just ask, I don't know if you all have that because when we get the budget from APD, the tech stuff is typically like Tyler Technologies, the same like 5 groups. And if we could find some experimental programming that speaks to the, drone usage or even AI assistance or, I don't know, I'd just be interested in running some sort of pilot program to see how that could help, us in this, a city so small, and it seems like with the very repetitive crimes, we could find something that could help.
Well, me and the good captain, this hasn't even been a year ago, last October or something like that, this past October, we went to Hagerstown and spent, you were there, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And Madam Chair was there. We went to Hagerstown. I thought they had an excellent, well-organized drone program. It wasn't that expensive. They were talking about $150,000, I think, total. They gave opportunities to young people because young people know how to handle those joysticks with ease. And it gave kids who were cadets opportunities to operate them. If my memory serves me correct, they employed young people. And they ran it through their legal department and ironed out, and they're right near Camp David. And I asked them, I said, well, Chief, what happens if you fly near Camp David? He said, they've been very amenable. And Camp David said, if you don't give us notice, we just have to shoot it down. The Marines said they'll shoot it down and you have to buy another one. But they coordinate very well with the federal agencies around. They have a heavier federal presence than we do. We have the Naval Academy. And Naval Academy said the same thing, that they'll gladly work with us. Just let them know when we're flying so it doesn't interrupt anything that they're doing at the federal level. And I think they can coexist. It's just a matter of us getting together and deciding as a city government that they want it. I've already gone on the record to say I think it'd be it's cheaper than a helicopter. Big Brother's watching anyway, everywhere. We need Big Brother to watch from the sky now, get a bird's eye view. as the good captain just stated, there's so many benefits, accident reconstruction, traffic patterns, escape routes. There's just so many things that we could use legitimately. And I think that what I took away, and I think Carrie will appreciate this, we had a provision in the policy, or they had a provision, I'm sorry, they had a provision in the policy that when appropriate, and that's when I use the term appropriate, meaning when they have the time, they always were accountable to the community. You remember that, Madam Chair, whenever they flew those drones up, they let the public know. And the reason for it, when it was, sometimes they didn't have time to notify the public. You got a bank robbery and they're escaping, you go back and let them know. But whenever they did something preemptively, they always held, public hearings and let the public know that the drones will be up and why.
Captain Thacker, I love your idea about the brochure, the pamphlet for domestic violence. Is that something we can utilize as well with theft from auto and theft of auto and shoplifting and that sort of thing? Maybe we can do something. I know Kat McGuez has been extraordinarily busy. We talked about it a while ago, but she's had her hands full on many fronts. But that's something possibly we can prepare and distribute as well. So that'd be great. Thank you. I'm not going to put Miss Blue on the spot today unless she has something she wants to add, but that's her choice.
No, ma'am, I have nothing that I want to add, but I will say that I'm excited about the new position here in Annapolis. I've worked in the Public Safety Bureau for Baltimore City for 15 years in various different roles, to include the Ethics Division, Serious Misconduct, and I've recently retired as of March the 1st, and I'm just excited about my new position, my new role here in Annapolis.
Great. We're glad you're here. Thank you so much. Alderwoman O'Neill, do you have any comments, questions? Okay. Anything else for the good of the order, Police Department?
No, ma'am. I think we pretty much captured everything. I would just close by saying at some point, I have to coordinate with the council because we still have a report that we need to discuss. That's the University of Maryland work study.
The workload study.
The workload study. So I'm not finished reading it yet, in all honesty. I started, but sometimes you just get taken away from things as events happen. But I'm going to make a concerted effort to get finished reading it and have a conversation with my command staff. And I would like to see us have a greater conversation about what the study revealed.
Great. Thank you so much again.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right. Next, we have ID 3525, Annapolis Fire Department. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello. Good evening.
Good to have you here.
As he's pulling that up, I'm Doug Romali, Fire Chief. To my left is Deputy Chief Matt Lopez, and we'll go over some updates with the fire department. But
Welcome. Thank you so much.
what I can tell you is for March, before we even start the program, that we had 1,035 calls for service.
Is that high for this?
I'm sorry?
Is that high for this period of time?
No, that's about average for March. 764 of those are EMS calls. It's a majority of what we do. Over 70% are EMS calls. 200 and some fire calls. The rest are hazmat, rescue, and service calls, and they're very low. But we're here today to talk about Ward 6. So we'll go over some citywide statistics, which I just gave you on last month. And we'll go over Ward 6, any operational challenges we have. We'll give you an update on the new engine. It was graciously approved in the budget 2 years ago by the council. And then Chief Lopez will have a little update on the strategic plan that we're going through.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second. Excuse me. 3 members of our public safety team is still here. And Mr. Mike Dye, resident in Ward 3, is here. I don't know if he has some questions offline for you all, but he has an opportunity now. Thank Thank you, Mr. Dye. Not a problem. Excuse me, Chief, I appreciate your indulgence.
All good.
Mhm.
So for 2024, Ward 6, there were 925 calls for service. So that about 11% of the city responses by our department. And it's the fifth busiest in all the wards. But as you can see, there was 925 last year in that ward. Overall statistics, 2,103 responses citywide. 265 of those were in Ward 6. And I'm sorry, the slide before that was 2024. This is for so far this year. You can go on. We've talked about this with every ward just because the statistics are out there. These are yearly statistics. As you can see, 2024 was a very low fire loss value in the city of Annapolis. I knock on wood every time we see that, but we did have a good year last year. I can tell you that in this ward, last month we had a working structure fire in Americana Drive, the Watergate Village apartments, the mid-rise apartments. That fire loss will obviously make this year's a little higher than if we continue to have that trend. That was a fire in the 6-story building up on the roof in the penthouse. Operationally, in this ward, we do not have a lot of challenges. The streets are a little wider than some of the downtown streets and the lower end of Eastport streets. It's primarily residential with some mixed use of businesses in the area, but for occupation or operational challenges, we really don't have any of getting to the calls. Majority of those are the single family and multifamily dwellings in this ward. Just to update you on the new engine for the Forest Drive station. As the last couple of meetings, you saw them, it start from scratch where there was absolutely nothing. This is what this pumper looks like today. At the end of this month, we will go out and do a final inspection to make sure it meets our specifications. I look to see it probably in service in June. This is just some more updates on it. And if you, like I said, if you remember the last couple of sessions, that did not look like a fire engine at that point. This fire engine here costs over $700,000. If we ordered it today, it would be $1 million. Chief Lopez will give you a little update on the strategic plan.
Good evening. So since the last time I came before you and talked about the strategic plan, we have had a number of meetings internally. We've had some focus groups of our members getting their feelings on where we stand within the department on a variety of issues. We've also reached out to the PIO of the city to start the process of doing an external survey, see where the citizens and the council feel the fire department in right now, where we're doing, and then go forward what we should be doing in the future and what our anticipated needs are. Our plan is to have a draft document to the chief by September of this year, which he can then present to the council towards the end of the year. Thank you.
Certainly. Alderman Gay.
This is such a stupid question, but I have to ask with the slide with the fire truck on the previous slide. Two-part question. One, I don't think $700,000 for a fire truck is a lot. So I'm actually pleased to hear that it was that inexpensive, considering, the way how safe it has to be for you all. My question though, do you ever use like the us.gov or whatever, the site where they have like all of the old, they have like a 2005 fire truck on there for like $250,000, and I'm just curious, has the city ever been to a point where we've had to rely on purchasing or outsourcing second hand vehicles as opposed to just building one from scratch?
We try not to buy used fire apparatus. The engine that this is replacing, you'll see on that govdeals.com or is where they would end up going. I would agree with you, but that 2005 fire engine is 15 years old. By standards, by 20 years old, they should be placed out of service. So it's there. But no, because of the budgeting, the planning, and the council assisting us, that we've been able to buy new fire apparatus for our primary units. And I would agree with you. If, a 2019 pumper, we paid $500,000. This here is taking us almost 3 years to get. It's $725,000. And then we order it today, it's going to be over $1 million. We ordered if we were going to go electric, it would be over $2 million purchase. Used to be that we could buy an aerial, a ladder truck, the one that drives the front and the back for that $1 million. We can't do that anymore. Medic units themselves, they're running between $450,000 and $500,000. So we run those medic units 5 years frontline, 2 years reserve, and by that time we've run the wheels off of them, and they're not really any good anymore. So it's unfortunate, though, that to keep up with the vehicle replacement plan, that you really can't do it because of the demand on the system now. Ever since prior to COVID or right around COVID, it's just the prices have gone up, and the amount of time to actually have these things built, you can't stay on that plan. We basically need to put a medic unit. We own 7 medic units. Basically every year we should be purchasing a medic unit, but now it's taking 2 years to get that medic unit, so that throws this whole plan off. But I can tell you that our apparatus, we get the best bang for our buck and the most we can get out of them.
Also, I'm curious because I've seen this video actually of the firefighter. This guy, it was a TikTok. He was he went to the fire station, and the firefighters had the front of the truck tilted down. And they were fixing a pulley system or something. Do our firefighters work as mechanics as well, or do we send them to Anne Arundel to be fixed?
No, they go to Hudson Street. They go to fleet maintenance. City fleet maintenance would do any major repairs on it. The firefighters are very handy with their hands, and they will attempt to fix whatever they can in-house. They try not to put their first line equipment out of service, but any needs, even oil changes and stuff like that, it goes to fleet maintenance on Hudson Street. And they have mechanics that specifically work on our fire apparatus. And then they have mechanics for the police vehicles and then public works vehicles, but they all work together. Those mechanics all help out each other. So now it's in a centralized location. I think the fleet manager really, it helps him out because they can get right on something.
I appreciate that. I remember every time in the budget, you make it very clear that, the firefighter's not just a firefighter. They're paramedic when they need to be. They are, doing tire changes, whatever they need,
They wear multiple hats.
I keep that in mind at all times. So thank you.
The term we use for that is all hazards.
All hazards?
All hazards.
The only other update I have is we have 4 new firefighter paramedic trainees that are in Anne Arundel County's fire school. They seem to be doing well. We have one investigator. One of our investigators just started the Anne Arundel County Police Academy, so we will lost that individual for close to a year so he can get his police certification. And we have 2 that are out getting their paramedic certifications, and that's over a year-long process. One of them in Howard County and one at Anne Arundel Community College, and all of those, we're proud to say, are doing very well in their courses.
Great. Can you go back to the second slide, the one with the 400,000
Fire loss.
450? What do you attribute that to?
We had a good year and did not have any major fires. One major fire will put us over $1 million loss. I mean,
so that's nothing that we can attribute or thank you for.
So I can say that, our fire safety program, our aggressive firefighting, that all plays factor into it. And sometimes some of it's just pretty good luck.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit more about your firefighting plan. I mean, do you go out and speak to groups, schools, just kind of a little?
So our public education and public outreach is out of the fire marshal's office. They not only schedule programs with schools, the elderly. It depends on the program that's needed at the time. We'll go out and do some awareness for hands-only CPR, Narcan, depending on what's going on in the community. So it depends on if we have a fire in the area or we have to saturate that area and want to go out and do the smoke detector program or just make sure we're checking that. So it all varies. And then several out of the year, they have some canned programs that they know when to push those out. So some of it is by demand when people call and ask us, and some of it we go out to the community organizations. I will say that the alderman brought up earlier about the police department trying to get information out there more, and public safety alone. The police chief, myself, and the director of emergency management have gotten together. We have a primary PIO for the police department and one for the fire department that are going to work hand in hand. They're actually working out of the same building so that they can make sure that we continue to get this stuff out there. And we also want to make sure we're getting all the positive stuff out there because it's not getting out there enough. I think you probably saw some of it over the last few months just on social media. We've had a higher presence. We did a lot of stuff for Black History Month. We've done some highlighting our personnel for Women's Month. So we're going to continue to get those aspects out there and try to push that along.
You know, that it's something to be said for that. And I think we all can appreciate, I'll speak for myself, with a lot of these firings or whatever you want to call them in the federal government, we're now finding out more about what a lot of these departments in the federal government do. We knew, I think we all knew they were important, but you start hearing the personal stories of what people are actually doing within their departments. And I think it's been extraordinarily enlightening. And maybe not, if we'd heard some more of that early on, we would be more appreciative of what people are doing in their own silos in some ways. So I think, you know, I was listening, kind of a sidebar, to a gentleman who worked in a park service, maybe out in the Midwest. And he was saying, you know, basically he just picks up diapers off the ground and things like that. And that's his job. And now he's not going to be doing it anymore. And so what will our parks look like? So sometimes we need kind of a nudge and a push to find out, but we need to make it more continuous as to what we're doing. That way, when the budget comes around and people wonder why we're spending money on certain things, people will understand much more the reasons why we do that. But I think we sometimes can overlook and assume that people know what we do all the time, but we can't do that anymore. I think what's going on in the federal government has taught us that we need to be more aggressive and toot our own horns a lot more as to what we're doing.
And we're watching closely what's going on with the revamping of federal government.
Right.
It's affecting everybody, not only the people that have lost their jobs, but the National Fire Academy, which is right here in Emmitsburg, Maryland. That's been shut down currently, so that training can't get done. Some of the grants that are coming through for some of our smaller grants, we're just keeping an eye on, but I'm sure Chief Simmons can tell you more about how some of that stuff's been frozen, and we're not sure where that's going in the future. So we'll continue to watch that. But yeah, everybody's got an integral part. And when it comes to public safety, we're seeing a lot of things there. Even with the firefighter prevention and injuries, that whole group's been shut down currently. So the ones that go out in the line of duty deaths that they investigate, we have to watch to see where that's going. And some of it's just where the government's figuring out what's what and who's got to be doing what. But right now, that pause is really scaring a lot of people.
And I think at our next public safety meeting, I want to hear from police as well as to how they see all of that, of what's going on in Washington and beyond, how that's affecting them. I don't know, and I'm going to ask you, as far as equipment and all, I don't know how the tariffs will affect us when purchasing equipment or purchasing pieces to replace whatever is broken. Am I way off base or right in line?
We are waiting to see how this pans out with tariffs.
Right.
As you know, you in the last budget appropriated the money for a fireboat, which was $1.4 million. That boat happens to be being built with a company that's got a manufacturer here in the United States and in Canada. The hull of our boat would probably be built in Canada, so we're waiting to see if that affects us or not.
Wow.
That purchase, it's already been paid for, so I'm not sure how that pan out, and nobody really knows at this point. But we're going to continue to monitor and watch it.
Okay. Any questions?
Sorry. Yeah. Just couple quick points. I do, to your point, want to see more of the community-based things from the fire department. Captain Edwards, I know is no longer retired, but I remember him vividly because of how passionate he was about showing up at every single event, and doing, getting those kids, whether it be the CPR or whatever activity they had out there. And so I think those things are critically important and would love to see those come back this summer. In fact, I also seen another video. I'm always seeing videos where the fire department had let the kids build these like wood homes and then they set them on fire. And, just showed, how quickly a fire and all of this stuff, just little things like that. I'm curious. Second, I will save the overdose conversation. Really, I know OEM primarily manages that, but also I know it's difficult with the fire department because you're responding to typically an overdose, and with the liberty now that the patient has, they could get up and go. And so at some point, I just whatever I can do to help, or whatever I can do to push information along to the community, would love to have that conversation.
We appreciate that. The overdose stats do come out of the police department and OEM. There's several reasons for that. We are the responders to it, but some of it's for us is because we are bound by HIPAA, where those other two agencies are not. So that does play factor into it. I can assure you, though, that we have some of the most passionate people out there besides Captain Edwards that go out there and do it. We have Battalion Chief McCrae, Lieutenant Williams, and Lieutenant White that really go out here and focus on some of these Your Life Matters programs and educational programs, and they have a lot of dedication for that. So we will continue those programs. You don't have to be worried about that, and the people that are running them have that same drive to really get out there because they want to make a difference in the public.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Any questions?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you all so much, as always. Be safe. Okay. All right. Lastly, ID 3625, Office of Emergency Management, update OEM. Chief Simmons and Mr. Gossett. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Public Safety Committee. Kevin Simmons, Emergency Manager, City of Annapolis. To my right, Brandon Gosnell is the Assistant Project Coordinator for OD-Free Annapolis. And we're here today to talk about Ward 6. And first off, we're going to talk about the food deficit and how we're working on the food deficit in Ward 6 through the Food Friday program. Everybody knows about the Food Friday program. It provides fresh and canned fruits, vegetables, frozen meat, pasta, rice, and other non-perishable goods, foods to the residents of Annapolis. Annapolis total, we distribute about 300 boxes of food per week to support 890 Annapolitans who are facing food security. Two of the things that I learned from the pandemic, that it's a deficit in health services for folks, and then it was a food insecurity thing. So the health department is working on the health part of this, and we're working on the food insecurity part of this. OEM has administrative oversight of the program. We operate out of Rec and Parks. The food is provided through the Anne Arundel County Food Bank. Alderwoman O'Neill is the organizer of the program. She keeps things going. And something that we're trying to do new is that we're partnering in Robinwood with Pastor Cheryl Menendez, because she has a food program as well. Instead of us duplicating efforts, we're trying to work together. And we're trying to do this on a couple of fronts. We did it with Reverend Wainwright and First Baptist for Bowman Place. So to talk a little bit more about Ward 6 there, Alderman Gay, the total number of food boxes prepared for Ward 6 is about 81. They benefit 81 families, 310 individuals, 21 seniors, and 149 children.
And something that I just found out as well? And first of all, kudos to the Alderwoman as well.
Absolutely.
Staff, they used to, I don't know if they still are pulling up in the OCS ambulance. I have seen it come through Eastport a couple times, and you know, my mom's neighbor relies on that. So you've done a fantastic job with that. And I also would add to this food statistics, and you all could incorporate it in some way. Tyler Heights has been doing their Food Saturday thing since COVID. I just found out that it was still going on every Saturday at 7 from 7 to 10. And so just kudos to both of these groups for long-standing commitments to the community and food insecurity.
So it's funny you mentioned that because one of my goals is to get all of the food pantries in city of Annapolis and get us working together and partnering together. I think we could do more work that way than individually. So we're getting there. It's a slow process. So Tyler Avenue residents, 138 individuals and 28 families. That's where most of our food insecurity is. And this kind of gives you an idea where all the dots are. That's where we have all the deliveries, and the pie chart shows you where we go.
Ward 6.
Right. So, but in 2024, it was. And is there any questions about the food insecurity in Ward 6?
Any questions?
Did I miss anything, Alderwoman?
You did not.
Okay. I know you would let me know if I did. So let's talk substance use disorder update for Ward 6 and the end of the year report. And this is for 2024. So Ward 6, substance use disorder data review compared to previous years. Ward 6 overdoses in 2024 were the lowest since 2015. And 2015 is the year that we started keeping data on overdoses, right?
What do you attribute that to?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
Okay. So Alderman in Ward 6, Ward 6 was consistently the highest of them all. And now Ward 6 is the third highest. Behind the number one overdosing ward is Ward 4, and the second is Ward 3. There was only one fatal overdose reported in Ward 6, whereas in 2023, you have 4 fatal overdoses. Narcan usage was reported to have been 80% of the overdoses in Ward 6. So 80% of the overdoses, somebody got to them with Narcan. And that's years and years of putting it out there, showing people how to use it. They're getting comfortable with it. They keep it around. They want it. And then when somebody's overdosing, they don't hesitate. And we're seeing that all through the city.
And that's to the point that you often make. That's not including because, somebody could use Narcan anytime and we don't know. So there's probably so many more examples of that.
Right. And then, some of this is data that we can verify. But sometimes folks come, they hit them with Narcan, they get up and walk away. We don't capture that. What we're telling the folks is that, call the ambulance, call the police, and have them come so we can make sure that we document that.
You've had an aggressive campaign, I guess is what it boils down to.
That and some other thing.
Yeah.
But people are getting more comfortable with it. Yes, sir.
No, and that is accurate. And I actually was just having this conversation with a member of the Anne Arundel County Health Department. And they were talking about issues and that they were having in Northern Anne Arundel in Brooklyn. I legitimately brag about this all the time because I think, obviously, with OEM, the police department, NOM, and the fire department, those 4 programs, the stats don't lie. You just don't drop 4 consecutive years in a row in opioid overdoses. We peaked once in fatals, but then it went back down. And that has a testament to do with, obviously, the council appropriating funding to those programs and the staff using the funding appropriately and responding the correct way. That's why I feel so passionately that we have to get past the Narcan and start giving more access to more things in the community, so that we can really curb this. Because you know the stats, it's getting crazy now. You got the teens doing it and various other forms of drugs, etc., and all of this, and rappers make everything popular, and kids are willing to try anything. And so the messaging, and it's like, I remember, I don't know if you all still do the cookouts. We used to do they were hosted by the city, solely focused on like overdose prevention in the summers.
That was
maybe
NAM. That was
yeah,
NAM.
Okay, yeah, maybe we bring that back, because OEM was there, fire was there, police was there, was creating the relationship with the community that we really, really wanted. Can't say enough, really, about just the work of your staff and everybody involved in helping make this.
Well, it takes a community alderman on this one. So let's talk about the locations of the overdoses. And Brandon, you want to talk about this? I think the number that you see up here is not quite correct. This one is correct? Okay, great.
So this is just showing you where the overdoses are. The key point I feel for this slide is at the bottom, where it says about 2/3 of all overdoses are along that corridor on President Street. Not necessarily on it, but within 2 to 3 blocks of that street are 2/3 of all overdoses, which is it's a pattern that has always been for Ward 6.
Alderman Gay, you look like you have a question.
You know, I want the outdoor vending machine. I want 24 access to medications that offset narcotics. You know, because I think, you know, there's no point of having it in the community center that shuts down at 4:30. And then you have to have the chief of fire and his team coming at 5 to revive somebody, and then coming back at 8 to revive the same person. We've seen that happen several times. And so I want some after hour solution. And I think the only way to do it without putting staff in harm's way is to have some standalone single distribution center. I know people are talking about temperature. They got vending machines for everything. You could buy a cake at the vending machine now that's outside. So you seriously, in Vegas, of all places, 180 degrees.
If we can send a man to the moon,
Yeah,
we can certainly
so-
put a vending machine outside.
So I just want to get around that. And then also, I don't know correct me if on the drug here. Is it Suboxone, or what's there's a drug that they use to help with the overdoses? Suboxone? Something.
Oh, buprenorphine.
Is it buprenorphine? And there's another one that they can actually get from the health center. It starts with an M, or I'll have to look. But the drugs as well, I'd like to make those readily available. I know what was it? Oh, okay. No, I know the buprenorphine had to be administered by a physician, and so that was off boards.
Mhm.
But there's another one. I think it's called like Suboxone or something. It's like blue tablets or whatever, and they use it to help with symptoms of overdoses. And if we can make those available as well, I really just, yeah.
So we're getting there slowly but surely, Alderman. Okay, so let's talk about some more demographics for Ward 6. Ward 6 age ranges align with the historical trend citywide. The big overdosing ages are 25 to 34, 35 to 44, and 45 to 54. Those are the groups that are having the most overdoses. And then African Americans represented the largest group of overdoses in Ward 6 with 14, and 1 was white. Anything to add on that, my friend? So let's talk about fatalities. They overdosed and they died. Ward 6 reported 1 fatal overdose, which was the lowest in 7 years. Citywide reported the lowest number of fatal overdoses since 2018. This is something I struggle with because we always bring down the overdoses every year. We're successful in doing that. But it's always 10% of them die, fatal overdoses. So I can't get below 10% of whatever number that we bring it down to. Citywide, African Americans represented the largest group of fatal overdoses in 2024, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. However, in 2022 and 2023, the white population led in fatal overdoses. And the third bar chart, historically, the city saw more individuals overdosing in the 45 plus range, especially African American males in 2024.
I'm gonna stop you, and this is a conversation we've had before, and looking at the time of day, the day of the week, and you know what I'm getting ready to say, that it always coincides with
Payday
and Wednesdays, which means the state gets paid on Wednesdays, the county school system, I think Wednesday or Friday, and I know the city on Friday. And those age numbers and that age range, and I can't get off of that because it's too coincidental. And it's been perpetual for a very long time. And then, Social Security checks and that sort of thing. When you get to that age range, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever you want to call it, there's something there, I believe, worth exploring. I know we've had some conversations about that.
We have.
But
So overdose prevention team. This is one of the things I want to bring up with the health department and bring the health department and their expertise in on this type of things. Not only the stats that you're talking about, but we need to look at some other things as well. In your ward, especially, it's certain areas.
Yes.
Where people are overdosing. We need to look at all of that stuff. All righty, Alderman Gay. So the vending machine, Eastport had the first community-based vending machine location in the city and in Anne Arundel County. About 1,800 Narcan kits from across the 8 machines that they have in the county since its full launch about a couple of years ago. That's a lot of Narcan. So we started to get community feedback on that. We got positive feedback about the machines. They use them. They look forward to them. They want them filled. When it's not filled, I hear about it, and we replenish the supply. But what I'm dealing with now is access, just like you spoke of. A lot of times they can't get in the community center, especially on the weekends when it's really, really needed. So we had a meeting last week with Executive Director Melissa Maddox Evans to see what we can do. We're supposed to go and take a look at the laundry room and see if we can put it in the laundry room. The last picture I saw of that laundry room sent to me by Ms. White, that didn't look like a place where I wanted to put it. But we're going to take a look in there. Hopefully they made some repairs to that place. It seems like a dangerous place to me. But we're looking at this because what HACA is telling us is they're going to start a Head Start program in the area of the machine, and we would have to find another place. So we're supposed to look at the...
HACA is in no position, and I'm going to be at the meeting Wednesday to say this to them. They're in no position to make demands. Okay? You have a problem that the city is helping you fix. You are refusing to provide resources to help fix this problem. And so they shouldn't be telling you that you have to move this by X date or you have to do anything. They should be fully cooperative in saying, here's a list of our fully publicly accessible locations. Where would you like to set this up? Considering that we have this problem that is leading to death on our properties and we are not putting any money or resources into it. And so that will be my message to them as it relates to the vending machine.
And when they let me know about it, they said, hey, look, we want to work with you. We want to try to figure out where we can put the machine. It has to be in a climate-controlled environment, so it can't be outside. And we started talking about a few locations. We came up with the laundry room. I got some pictures, which leads me to believe that might not be the better place. So we're looking at places in Ward 6, but then again, my problem now is in Ward 4. So that Ward 4 may be an option to move it there. So I'm looking at a lot of different things.
Are we not in a position to, and this is again why I really wanted to meet with the city assistant city manager and the finance director, where the city obviously was involved in a lawsuit. They sued opioid companies. They get a small lump sum back. It's being set aside in a fund right now, and it's supposed to be split up between the 4 programs. Again, this is a perfect opportunity for us to take money like that and invest in our own product. We shouldn't be wanting to get with the health department and, wait 18 years for them to, run through their process. Let's find the $100,000 it takes in our budget to get our own machine. And then we partner with them for product, or we partner with the state health department for product. But why can't we have our own infrastructure? That's what I'm confused on.
So you're talking about the opioid restitution funds, and we don't get a whole lot of that like the county does. We get enough to operate our 4 programs. At a minimum, it takes $147,000 to operate those programs. So I think we have enough to get through this budget cycle with the opioid restitution fund.
And so what I was under the impression was that before the opioid restitution funding came to the city, which was in 20,
a couple years ago.
Yeah. The city was, I think it was, I remember in one budget, it was like $50,000 or something. And then it started becoming a repeat thing. It might have been 2019, but the city was giving those 4 programs the opioid money. And so now if the restitution funding is coming in, my position is, why would the city stop supplying the funding to those 4 programs? We could still fund those 4 programs and allow you to make the decision to use the money to invest in infrastructure or to invest in a new staff person or whatever. I hope what I'm basically saying is that if the funding is there and there's no policy, if there are no policy tying the hands of yourself or whomever is involved with the opioid funding, just I would say just do it.
Well, I'm not going to turn down any funding. That's number one. Number 2 is that I asked for enough to get the job done, and as you see, we're doing a good job. The numbers are coming down. We're having success. As far as staff, Brandon's paid for by that fund, and then we have a couple, or at least a couple community liaisons that are paid out of that. Tiana and NAM is paid from that. So we do have staff. But, if the city wants to talk about a vending machine, I'll certainly have that conversation with them and all. But right now, anything other than what we get, I deal with the health department. They have a lot deeper pockets than mine. And I appreciate the fact that they reached out to us and said, hey, look, we have this concept of a harm reduction vending machine. Do you have a place to put it? And we did the right thing. We went to the Hacker board. We identified a place. We went to the community. They voted to do it. We didn't spring it on them. They voted to do it. They had a say in it. They have a say of what's in it. And it's been a success. But right now, because of other obligations, we have to move it. We may have to move it.
One last comment on opioids, if you don't mind, Madam Chair.
Oh, go right ahead. Alderman
Thank
Gay.
you. Don't move it from Ward 6. Let's get the money so that we can buy. I will sponsor the amendment. I just think it would be a disaster. You move it from one place and you'll just, the issue will start back up there. Lastly, I'm wondering if the city attorney can look into, for me, municipalities' provisions of sponsoring Suboxone clinics or handing out Suboxone. It's SUB. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. I was on, not that you didn't know. I was spelling it because I was having trouble. Yeah. Thank you.
So to move on, talk about the Wellmobile that comes from the health department. We have it scheduled every Wednesday at Harbor House. It goes from 12 to 2:30. The majority of the Hep C and HIV testing requests for that comes from Annapolis, and the health department reports that they have regulars that use that. They come in asking for their bag, which includes Narcan, hygiene kits, feminine products, condoms, and they get their blood pressure checked religiously on that unit. So getting back to Madam Chair, you talked about what do I attribute the decrease in overdoses for? It's the vending machines, it's the Wellmobile, it's the strong outreach that we've been doing there year after year. No other ward has the vending machine. No, Ward 4 does have the Wellmobile. So if we can take that model, pick it up, put it in another ward, I think that their numbers will go down as well. Not that any ward has grossly large numbers, but we want to just get this thing down.
I'm looking at the schedule, and I just asked Alderwoman O'Neill, did she want to concentrate on Ward 2 either in May or June? So she has indicated June, and I'm going to ask for Ward 3 in May, since they seem to be the high volume wards. So, and I'll reiterate that to everybody else. Ward 3 in May and Ward 2 in June. So. When looking at the charts over the past couple of months, I'm concerned. Not anymore. Kudos to you.
Kudos to them.
To them. Well, supportive.
So
much so.
So here's another reason why the overdoses have come down so much. So look at this heat map here. So the red is locations of overdoses in the city of Annapolis, and the green is outreach activity. So you can see where it's a cluster of overdoses. You can see how we attack it with outreach. So we're always on the case. We're always monitoring. Our head is on a swivel as far as overdoses, and we flood that area with outreach.
We were supposed to hire someone. The money was in the budget for fiscal year 25. I have not been happy about not hiring this person to do some outreach. This has slogged along since July the 1st. And I'll just say I'm not happy about it. So I don't know what more we can do between now and the next budget cycle, but I'm just very disturbed that the person has not been hired. And I don't know I know it's not your end, but it's between two ends.
So I wouldn't say it wasn't in my hands.
It wasn't your end.
Because anything in this program kind of falls on me. But one of the things, I know that we reached out to you to help because we wanted somebody that could look in your ward. But as you know, and we talked to you about it, has to be that right person.
Say that again.
Has to be that right person.
Exactly.
To be that community liaison.
Right.
Because
because we're looking at somebody who can work in all wards. We talked about
that. And that person does intelligence, it works incognito, and
Right.
and all that stuff. So yeah, we're still working on it. We just had a hiccup in the Office of Emergency Management because we're trying to keep our heads above water lately, and a lot of stuff has gone to the wayside.
We had just talked about at one point just having just a generalized person, for lack of a better term, to do outreach. But the discussion went deeper when we had it. But my thing was, let's get someone who's knowledgeable, not necessarily going and doing that deeper groundwork.
Right.
So, yeah,
But I want you to understand too that deeper groundwork helps us out because
certainly.
because it's
Sure.
a lot of that stuff, the intelligence can go to the police department.
True.
And we have people that move right on that stuff.
Right.
So that's important.
Right. But from my end of it, I'll take the general person rather than having no one at all.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess that's a better way of putting it.
Mhm.
Any other questions at this point?
So we'll wrap it up with the end of the year substance use disorder report, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Brandon for this.
So we took the 2024 report. We pulled out some key successes that we had citywide. Some of these successes are focused on 2024, but majority of them are focused on since 2015 to show how we've evolved. Last year, it is great to see that it was the lowest number of total overdoses since we started keeping record in 2015. So we had 80. In 2015, we had 48. And we'll get there one day. 3 of the last 4 years saw a decrease in overdoses compared to the previous year. So 2024, was it higher or lower than 2023? It was lower. So that's something that we want to see. We want to see that continuing decrease. Last year's decrease of 34% was the largest ever year-over-year decrease, which was another key milestone that we hit. And the second year since 2015 where the total overdose count was under 100. Another one of those kind of key points of having less than 100 overdoses. We've only done it twice. Narcan use, 70%, 6th year in a row. Obviously, we want that much higher, but it's 70% is where we typically hover. And fatal overdoses, third lowest since 2015.
Questions?
So, of course, we want to show some challenges as well. Fatal overdoses, like Chief said earlier, we can never break below that 10%. 12, 15%, but it's never below 10%. Meaning that if we have 100 overdoses, we're anticipating 10. If we have 10 overdoses, we anticipate 1 fatal. And that's just been the way that it has been. And again, the 25 to 30-year-old population remains that high population since 2015. It doesn't go down. And overall, since 2015, the Black population, African-American population, is 54% of overdoses in the city. And the white population is 43%. So last year it was higher. I think it was 60 or 70%, where overall it's 54%.
The county is 43% African American and 54% white.
What's reversed is the population. So it's white is usually higher in the county, but not the percentage marks.
Oh,
But the percentage is higher white population.
Oh.
So another challenge that we have is that the APT SUD, whenever there's an overdose, their mark is to go out and find that individual and make first contact within a couple of days, hopefully the next day if possible. And we're under 10% of being able to do that. It's either we do not have a good contact number, which we almost never have. We go to Facebook, we try to social media to find the individuals, and less than 10% of the time we're able to make that first contact. And when we do make that contact, not many people are accepting treatment. They'll say, yeah, I want treatment, and then we never hear back from them. But we do leave a whole bunch of pamphlets, we leave Narcan behind, we give them an idea that help is out there, but it's still less than 10%. And then here's one that we talked about earlier, where the accounting of Narcan is something that's not just us, it's nationwide. We don't have full accounting of all the Narcan that we put out there because we anticipate you're going to take it, The overdose was enough to be reversed by the Narcan, and you move on. You don't call 911. And part of our education with them is just because you recovered, call 911. You do not have to go to the hospital, but at least let the medics come out, make sure you're okay. We can track it, and you can go home. You don't have to necessarily go to the hospital. That's something that we need to correct in our literature. And most fatal overdoses do not have any Narcan administered. So that's a key thing. One of the pamphlets that we want to put out is, if you're going to use, even if you use alone, carry your own Narcan. So if somebody comes by and if you're going to use alone, just tell somebody. I mean, that's, difficult to say, but that's some of the wording and pamphlets we need to put out there.
Do you all get any feedback on your campaign when it comes to these different variables? Narcan or anything else that you utilize, or
Feedback from residents or?
yeah, feedback from residents or those who've administered it to a family member or friend, or anecdotal information?
I know, talking with Your Life Matters and the events that we go to, it's appreciated that they're trained on it. People don't realize how easy it is to use Narcan until we show them that it's a squirt, and they're shocked and surprised. So we hear back from that of thank you, I didn't know it was that easy.
And like we talked about with the harm reduction vending machine, we hear from the residents because it's not accessible. We can't get it on the weekends. We can't get it after hours. Can you do something different? So, they want it, and they want to be prepared. In one ward, Ward 4, we have it in some folks that are down there watching that community have it set up where certain places in the stairwells you can find it, and everybody knows where it is.
No.
So it's a lot of informal stuff going on.
Underground.
Yep. With the Narcan, and it's our job to make sure that they can get it, make sure that they can provide it to the community in their own way. I don't care how they provide it. If you put it in the stairwell, everybody knows where it is. If you need more, come see me. We'll make sure that it keeps flowing.
It sounds like akin somewhat to a little free library inside. It's kind
Yeah. But we are having a lot of success. Whatever we're doing, I don't want to stop it because we're having a lot of success. And we mentioned Brooklyn. They're right next to Baltimore, who's not having a lot of success with this. So
we have one more question, but I want to give you opportunity to just guess if it's 2 or 3 sentences on your grant situation. Alderman Gay.
Thank you. I just would like at the next public safety, or you can send it to me. I would like to see us establish some sort of long-standing relationship with outpatient facilities as well, not in Anne Arundel County if possible. I know we have like Chrysalis House and all of that stuff, but I think we talked about this previously. One of the problems is that like if I'm having issues with addiction and I live on, President Street, and you take me to, Rowell Boulevard, I'm just walking back over, and so I would like, I know they have some really good ones in Frederick and, things like that, where there's just open communication. Hey, we have a patient that, really is looking forward to coming out today. We can just send them up there. I know a lot of the times it's repeat offenders, and you all have, relationships with them, and when they're ready, they're ready. So that's all.
So we've experimented with that, actually. That was on our radar screen. We had one person in particular that multiple overdoses every year. And we were working with Angel Trainer to try to actually go to Frederick. Frederick was the place. But a person has to be ready, and that person wasn't ready. But that's the only time that we looked into doing that. And all, but you bring up a good point.
2 or 3 sentences on your grant situation.
Screwed up.
That's 2 words.
So the federal grants have been put on hold. So all my grants are put on hold. These grants pay salaries. These grants buy police equipment, fire equipment, training, and all that. So it's been put on hold for review. But legally, they can do that for 60 days. But it's been like, I'm sorry, not 60 days, 30 days. But it's been close to 50 days. I did receive a letter from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. And what she's saying is that they're reviewing our grants, our meaning everybody's grants, for 3 things. One, to see if these grants can be used to help immigrants in any way. So if they take a look at your grant, meaning our grants in Annapolis, and if they can be perceived to help immigrants in any way, then it's a good chance that they will be held up. The second thing they look at, according to this memo, is if we're a sanctuary city. So there's no real definition of a sanctuary city. It's just what one would, in my opinion, perceive by what you do as a sanctuary city. And I know that the General Assembly just passed something talking about sensitive locations where ICE would not be able to go, schools, churches, et cetera. So could one say that
Hospitals.
where the state is kind of a sanctuary place? I don't know. But that's not defined anywhere. It's just that it's whatever the people who do the grants think. And the third thing, and they just discontinued one of my grants, they just terminated it. It's called the BRIC grant. I forgot the acronym, but it deals with resiliency and sustainability and climate change.
Oh, man.
So the big word there is climate change, and they just terminated that grant. We received that in the past. We had an application in to receive it to do our hazardous mitigation plan update, but that's since been terminated because they terminated that grant. So the big things they look at is climate change, sanctuary city, and immigrant. So most of my grants are being reviewed right now. They just sent me something, said it probably be about 60 more days that they're behind and all of that stuff. So hopefully in 60 days, things will be back to normal. So we'll wait and see. But everybody's in the same boat, not only me,
Right.
but, Baltimore and Howard County, Seattle, Washington, and all of us are in the same boat.
When you come back next month and the month after, I mean, we're kind of high with our numbers. If you all can come back kind of with just kind of a general plan, or maybe something, other things we could do in our wards or could be done in our wards when we're looking at the numbers that we've had over the past, I guess, year. Just give us something that we might be able to hang our hats on, or something we might be able to do to get those numbers down for Ward 3 next month and Ward 4 in June.
Okay. And I will do that,
Mm-hmm.
but also want to say that the numbers are, even Ward 4, which is the highest, is not really bad.
Right.
I mean, one overdose is bad. One fatality is bad. But if you look at the numbers, what is Ward 4, do you know? But it's not very high.
I understand
None of them
that.
are very high.
I understand that. So just put that in your quiver. The other thing before we all leave, last week I went to a memorial service for Mr. Andre Atkins from over in Ward 6. I think everybody knew the work that he did and how much of an impact he made in Ward 6. And I was asked to speak. So anyway, I just want to, before we close out, just take a couple of seconds, a moment of silence for Mr. Andre Atkins at this point. Everyone in the room, we're going to take a few seconds regarding Mr. Andre Atkins. Moment of silence. Thank you all so much. Okay, any other questions? Office of Emergency Management or Fire or Police? Nothing else for the good of the order. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
So moved. Second, all in favor? Aye. We adjourn, 8:46 PM. Thank you all so very, very, very much.
Thank you.